Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of the whole land of Egypt. He gave him a new Egyptian name, Zaphenath. He was not Joseph anymore. And also he gave him the daughter of an important Egyptian family to marry. Joseph was 30 years old when he started the plan that God had given him through Pharaoh's dream. That is 13 years since his brothers sold him to Egypt. For 7 years there was plenty of water in the Nile, and Joseph collected all the food produced in Egypt and stored it up in cities all over the country. He stored up huge quantities of grain, like sand of the sea. There was so much that he stopped even keeping records because it was beyond measure. But the 7 good years of plenty in Egypt came to an end, and it stopped raining in the countries all around Egypt. The Nile started to dry up. The level of the water dropped and dropped, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the countries around Egypt too, but only in Egypt had food been stored up and ready. When the famine had spread over the whole region, Joseph, who was now 37 years old, opened up all the storehouses and started to sell grain to the desperate people who were hungry. And when they heard about it, people came huge distances from other countries to also buy food to stay alive. Far away in Canaan, it was also very dry. Israel, Joseph's father, learned from travelling traders that there was grain for sale in Egypt, and he said to his sons, "Go down there and buy some for us, so that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went to buy grain from Egypt. But Israel did not send Benjamin, his youngest son, Joseph's only full-blood brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him and he and Rachel would lose their only other son. Now everyone who wanted to buy grain had to meet with Joseph and pay him for it in Egypt. And when Joseph's brothers arrived, they too had to bow down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, and he was startled when he saw in front of his very eyes the dream that God had given to him so many years before, and it's starting to come true. His brothers were bowing to him. But he pretended to be a stranger to them and spoke harshly. "Where do you come from?" he asked. From the land of Canaan, sir," they replied in fear. None of them recognized him. He was the most powerful leader in Egypt apart from Pharaoh. He was now a man in his 30s, 20 years older than when they sold him as a teenager. He had an Egyptian name. He spoke the Egyptian language to an interpreter who spoke to them in their language. He dressed in Egyptian clothes. His eyes had Egyptian makeup painted on. They never even imagined it could possibly be their long-lost brother. Joseph had a plan and suddenly pointed at them and said, "I think you're spies." "No, my lord," they answered. "Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now back there with our father, and one is no more. He died." Joseph said to them, "All right, prove I can trust you by letting one of your brothers stay here in prison while the rest of you go and bring your youngest brother to me." Well, they didn't know that Joseph could understand every word they said in their language, and so he heard them when they said to each other, "Surely we're being punished because of our brother Joseph. We saw how distressed and sad he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why we're in this trouble. That's why disaster has come upon us." Joseph turned away from them when he heard this and began to weep. But then he dried his eyes, came back, and had Simeon tied up and taken away from them to prison. Joseph gave orders for his servants to fill the brothers' bags with grain and to put each man's silver back into his sack and to give them food and provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. And when they came all the way back to their father Israel in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them. Then, as they opened up what they had brought back, there in each man's sack was a pouch of silver. And when they and their father saw the money pouches, they were so frightened, terribly frightened. How had their money come back to them? Was it a trap? Their father Israel said to them, "You've deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more. Simeon is in prison in Egypt, and now you want to take Benjamin away from me. Everything is against me." And Reuben then said to his father, "Look, you may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring Benjamin back to you. Please entrust him to my care. I will bring him back, and Simeon.